Hello everyone, I'm Jan Angel, your 26th District State Representative. Thank you for joining me on Legislative Update. This week, a number of organized groups who receive money from the state come to the Capitol with a request: close tax loopholes. They want more money to spend in the state budget. The term loopholes makes many people think there's a mistake in the system, like something accidental or overlooked that allow for ways to buck the system. That's really not the case at all. In Washington state, we don't have tax loopholes, we have tax incentives. The distinction between the two is important to understand because the tax incentives we have in Washington are no accident. They were enacted deliberately for very specific purposes. The primary purpose of a tax incentive is to create jobs. For example, in the first 10 years after the legislature adopted a tax incentive that exempted sales tax on manufacturing and equipment, it created 285,000 new jobs. Those new jobs generated billions of dollars in tax revenue. Billions of dollars in tax revenue. That's just one of many success stories. Thousands of jobs with high wages and benefits have been created, and many jobs have been saved as a result of these incentives. With more than 230,000 people out of work, including about 3,800 in the 26th district, we need to protect jobs and get Washington working again. That means reducing costs for private sector employers so they can hire again. Tax incentives were adopted to attract economic investment and create and retain jobs for Washington workers. In the worst case scenario, repealing economic incentives could force employers to lay off more workers. In the best case scenario, they may not lay off workers, but it will extend the time before they begin hiring again. And that means a longer time before we reach economic recovery. Let's be honest about what this really means. Closing tax loopholes is just a fancy way of saying, let's raise taxes. Voters were clear in November. Their message in 3 separate ballot measures was no new taxes. Let's also be very clear where supporters of closing tax loopholes are going with this. They've proposed Senate Bill 5857, which would eliminate the sales tax exemption on food. Closing that loophole would result in a $1.7 billion tax increase on our working families. They also want tax hikes on medical devices, insulin, church daycare centers, blood banks, fundraising by nonprofits, and on employers creating jobs in rural counties. These are the exact things that would hurt Washington families the hardest. Is that where we really want to go? I don't think so. Here's the bottom line. Our state coffers are expected to take in nearly $4 billion more of your tax money in the coming 2 years than in the previous biennium. $4 billion more. Simply put, Washington doesn't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. Higher taxes will not solve this problem, and that's not where our focus should be. We don't need to increase taxes to put more people out of work so that more people become dependent on state government. Instead, our focus should be on reforming state government, adopting a balanced budget, and providing policies that will get Washington working again. I welcome your comments and your input. You can email me from your website. You'll see the address right here on your screen. thank you again for joining me on Legislative Update, and until next week, I'm your State Representative, Jan Angel.